Hi, welcome back for episode 6. Today we actually have a very nice person. He is a bartender at 5 by 5, and he actually brought us some nice products to enjoy and test. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, you're welcome.
Today's guest is Ralph.
Hey, how's it going?
And to my right, my very trusty co-host, Oscar.
Hello.
So Ralph, tell me about your story. Where does it begin, or where would you like to begin? You were in the Marine Corps, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I did 4 years in the service. I went right out of high school. I graduated 2013, left July 2014. From there,
Somehow those are the most important dates of your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I never forget those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did my 4 and got out like everyone else. I mean, I was a combat engineer. It's a lot of knowledge that I needed to learn and stuff like that.
Combat engineer, is that like a fancy word for something?
Yeah, it's a fancy word for construction workers, demolition man.
I knew it, man. Mine
Yeah.
was aerospace medical technician. Okay. It's like just a fancy word for working at a family clinic. That's it. Had nothing to do with aerospace, at least for my job, my title.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did that. I really enjoyed it. I loved my job.
So you worked a lot along with a lot of CBs, right?
Yeah.
In the Navy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I worked with CBs for a while, actually. My first unit was a bridge company. So we built bridges, essentially. And a lot of our training was with CBs, since they're like the combat engineers of the Navy.
Yeah. First on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm. After that, I went to a different unit where I was able to deploy. On this 7 to 8 month deployment, I was able to do a lot more than I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy how so much.
Yeah, this short period somehow had an impact of your life entirely.
Yeah, I'll never forget those 8 months, you know.
Yeah.
I started off on a boat, you know, bed smaller than me. I had to shriveled up, you know.
Yeah, you put leaning sideways.
Yeah, with an entire berthing of just random people I've never met. It was definitely an eye-opener, you know, having to live with people you've never lived with before.
So cooped up.
Yeah, and we, we got to each other's heads a lot, you know. We got tired of each other, you know. I watched more movies on deployment than I ever have in my entire life. I'll tell you that. But during those 8 months, I was able to go to Iraq for 2 of those 8 months, 2.5. We were the middlemen. So there was people leaving Iraq and there was people coming in. We were the ones in between them, you know. We were kind of like the operational part of just for 2.5 months, you know. It wasn't anything too crazy. During my time there, I did learn a lot about myself and about my.
Yeah, you had a lot of time to reflect.
Absolutely, no TV, no nothing. No,
oh man, fuck!
You know, out
in the Air Force, we had all that.
Yeah, it was a good time. You know, I would have rather done my 8 months in Iraq. You know, just because me and my unit, me and my closest friends, we got a lot closer than we expected to. You know, like I truly feel like I could have done a lot more while I was there. You know,
in the sense that you were able to fully trust another human being to levels that in modern society you're not able to.
Absolutely. I can't find that camaraderie anymore, and it's kind of sad to say.
Oh, that is hard, bro. Yeah, I had the same thing happen. Like me and a group of other people, we ended up moving from tech school to another tech school, and all of us just kind of stayed together, right?
Yeah.
And so like by the end of them, like I started off as kind of like a little bit of a joke where I would be like, yeah, fucking Red Rangers, you know, because like our class color was like red. We were like so tight. We would, you know, because I guess we were just so alone in that, like even our family members, you know, they didn't really talk to us so much. So we ended up getting together, you know, going to the beach, having a barbecue, all of that. And by the end of it, I would be able to just, you know, put my hands in and they'd all be just like enjoy just that camaraderie, and I had never been able to do it. So like going from that to like my own base, and like it ended up sucking for me, just a bad experience because I was never able to get that tight and close with people.
Absolutely, yeah. In high school, wasn't really the more popular guy. You know, I had friends, I had acquaintances, I had things like that, but I never got that brotherly friendship. Other than one of my friends was Fernie. Yeah. He's a good guy, but I never got to truly confide in someone, if that makes sense. You know, I never,
yeah.
But
now you have us.
Yeah. Now I have this the Gray Space.
The Gray Space podcast. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, finding friends is really hard, especially nowadays, because you don't know what people. A lot of people put their whole political identity in the forefront of their Facebook, and then it's just so unappealing to want to be friends with people who you don't seem are willing to accept you, because you know you might be different in that sense. And so my goal was just for people to just eventually just be able to talk about politics, how they feel, like where they come from, without actually having that be the driving factor behind their identity, because everybody wants to identify as this or that. But it's like, yes, you can label yourself that, but let's not have that be who you are, because you're more than just a person. You're more than just a liberal or a Democrat or a Republican. You're a fucking human being. You're an American, and let's just get along. So, you were saying, Oscar?
Oh, no. You go ahead.
So coming back from deployment and then finally getting out of the Marine Corps, how was that? Was it a smooth transition for you? Like, or were you done and were you sick and tired of it, or did you start looking at it like graduation goggles? Were like, yeah, I'm gonna miss this old place.
You know, I truly loved the Marine Corps. You know, the whole time I was in it, I wanted to get out. I hated it. You know, but if I could go back, I'd stay in, man. It was truly, where I feel I belonged. You know, I put so much into it just to get out, and you know, I came back here. I was excited. You know, I was like, I'm gonna see my old friends. I'm gonna do all this, but little did I know that time doesn't stop. You know what I'm saying?
People keep going.
Yeah, people keep going, and they don't look back. So when I came back, it was a big reality.
Nobody fucking cares, right?
Nobody cares at all, man.
Yeah,
and it's understandable, you know. People move on with their lives. People get families. People get married. You know, people go to school and then they graduate and go do big things. But,
for them it's just like, oh hey, what's up, and then they just go back to whatever they're doing.
Yep.
Yeah, that happened to me actually when I first got out. I was trying to get to Oscar and hang out with them, and like it just didn't seem like it was that big deal. I got him to get out of the house and help me move. That's how fucking awesome I felt. Like I needed that. You don't know how much that meant to me.
No problem.
But what I realized is, like, I went to the Rods building, and I went to see, you know, Jeff and Hector, and actually just I saw them, and they were like, hey, glad you're back, and you know, you're finally out and all that stuff. But it just didn't feel like it mattered much to them. Like, hey, like I made this big jump from having no you know, career to fall into. You know, I'm a certified EMT still, but with everything that happened to me, I didn't feel safe, and I had so much anxiety taking care of people and depression, and I just had a big, you know, traumatizing thing that happened. You know, especially in a time of divorce, your mind is kind of brittle, and so when bad shit happens, you're unable to happen, and that cost me a little bit of my career because I really wanted to keep going, but I had to make that sacrifice of, you know, I have to get back to my daughter.
Yeah, man.
Which she was here. But going back to what I was trying to say is, like, yeah, and it just seemed like when you come here, nobody actually cares. Like, it's just another person, and you put so much effort because you think about, like, oh, you build it up in your head in a ways, and you just come back and it's like, I'm here. I've been missing for the last 4 years. Come on, like,
where's everyone at?
Yeah, and that also happens with a lot of people that go on break. You know, where it's like, hey, let's hang out. I'm finally coming home, and they would just not show up. Or it's like, hey, I got busy, I got work, and that would always be killing me. So in hindsight, I wish I would have taken more vacations to places, because the people that I came to see, they didn't really, it was almost like an inconvenience for them to have to go see you after all this time.
Yeah, man, I tell everybody all the time, I wasted my entire vacation days in the military. I could have done so much more. I could have visited all these different places, but no, I decided to come here, and no one really cared.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, like I said, it's understandable. Like, these people have families, they grow older, they move on to different things, and I'm not gonna hate them for that, but I just wish I hadn't put that in my mindset that time would start back where I left off when I left.
I still find myself doing that, man. I mean, I got the emo bangs going on again, just like I did in high school, and I'm just like, okay, well, what did I miss? Where do I pick up? And you realize that you're this whole other person, and you're like, you've changed. You no longer have the same views that you did. Remember when you were young, and you'd be so full of energy, and you'd come back and try to connect with the youthful person that you went in before you signed up to serve your country. I definitely I see those. I would see those commercials of joining the military and whatnot, and it says at the very bottom in the fine print, experience may vary, and I was just like, wow, they absolutely had a great disclaimer.
I mean, they weren't wrong. But yeah, man, I mean, I feel like although getting out was a huge change for me, I went from waking up 5 a.m. every single day to whenever. Yeah. I started school. That was a big reality. It really changed my mind a lot, because I went in to college at the age of, what was it, 23, 22, and there's these kids, 18-year-olds, with same thing. They're in a new setting, they're in a new environment, and these professors, man, they don't let them think for themselves. It really like, how should I say? It really hurts me to see that these kids, they're so ready for life, but they can't enjoy it because professors are instilling this mindset into them that
like, you have to be a fucking social justice warrior. You have to fight for racism. It's like, dude, I barely know what you're talking about. Like, I recently got into a squabble with my college professor because it just seemed like he was doing that type of grooming and putting these like kind of code words, these subliminal words that the media always puts in to make you feel something. It's heartbreaking because I definitely, I don't know who I would have been if I would have stayed in college, because I didn't like the fact, I guess I kind of saw it early, where I saw, like, I'm young and I have no actual things to have, like, of property or anything, and my parents were not wealthy, so I just kind of, it seemed like the things that they were selling or, like, the promoting, like free everything, it seemed so enticing, and it seemed so like, wow, why can't we do this at all? And as an adult now, I see it like, you stupid person, like, how could you think like that, young person? But it's all a part of growing, because I actually start to see the big picture now. I see that how economics really works, and how free doesn't really mean free. It just means somebody else pays for it, and you never count on that person being you.
Yeah.
Going to school, these kids, they think after getting out of college that it's going to be a perfect world, and that's exactly what they want. But the reality is that's not the case,
Yeah.
There's so much more than just what these professors have to say, And
they already have it made. They're already getting comfortable money from the university.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these kids, they try and make change, and then they realize that it's not really what they wanted,
Right.
And
they were young and impressionable.
Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest thing that bothers me about college. Although, I really do enjoy college. I learned a lot, and I'm actually doing really good. I've gotten pretty much all A's, really.
It's great, man.
Yeah. So I really enjoy college, and I really want to get the best out of it. But at the same time, I don't let these professors change my mindset about things. You know, I
Yeah.
have my own opinion on things.
And
That's
it
good.
sucks that they can't because you already know their biases and their intentions to do that. Like if it was just a professor that could just teach you the facts and then just promote you to engage in conversation with each other, that would be a whole different thing. But unfortunately, it's gotten to that point where we can't even have conversation, but because it's offensive to even mention skin tone, but somehow they're fighting for like, oh, these Latinos, you know, or these African Americans, or anybody except like the white people who are actually a lot of them are feeling left behind because it seems like everybody's just catering to everybody who's a minority. And
Yeah.
in my opinion, it's I'm gonna say it's racist to have biases or prejudices against any person of color, including white.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I completely agree. We're in a generation of being offended,
Yeah.
you know, and
The victimization thing is coming back from the Marine Corps where you fucking just take the shit, right?
yeah,
You just put up with it and you internalize that and you put it towards hard work and effort as much as you can.
Are you saying there's no safe spaces in the Marine Corps?
Is there? I don't know. I was in the fucking Air Force.
he's more saying there's no fucks given in the Marine
Okay,
Corps.
that sounds fair. Yeah.
You know that there's really no at the end of the day we're doing a job, man, regardless of your political beliefs. You know, there's no politics in war, you
Right.
know?
Well, there is, but
well, there-
you're not
yeah.
you're not
But-
part of that.
Right. Not for the people actually fighting in the war.
Yeah.
But it's only the people who pull the strings.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna be completely honest. I did not look up one single political article while I was in the military, just
Yeah.
because I mean,
Yeah,
it,
it didn't matter for
at the end of
your
the
job.
day, I had to do what they told me. You
Yeah.
know? So it's
It's very commendable because I know a lot of people have their own opinions already in the military.
yeah.
Mostly, you know, right leaning, but I'm sure there must have been left leaning as well that
Absolutely.
understood the importance of fighting for this country. How had it changed your views basically from when you were a young kid to being in the Marine Corps? What did you see that was important to you that politically wise you would be in favor of?
So essentially, like before I joined the military, I didn't really have too many political beliefs. You know, I was kind of just going along for the ride. You know, I didn't know what I was gonna do after high school, so I kind of just joined the military, and I'm glad I did it. It gave me a political standpoint. You know, you know, it seems so easy for these people who've never joined the military to give an opinion on something they've never witnessed. Done themselves. So, like for example, I did an argument on why all gun laws are infringements. You know,
Yeah.
and this lady, she was like, well, why did they have to shoot you in the body? Why not just shoot for an arm? I'm like, you know how hard it is to shoot an arm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the heat of, and in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, it was that Joe Biden thing. Shoot him in the leg.
Yeah. If someone
Come
comes
on,
at
man.
you, if someone comes at you unarmed with a knife,
Yeah,
shoot him in the leg. I mean, that makes sense to me.
unarmed with a knife. Holy shit.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean it's it's difficult for the average person, you know, and again, like even people who aren't like you're saying, people who haven't gone into the military, people who've never been, you know, in a police officer's shoes either, you know, when someone's charging at you or someone's not obeying your commands. Like a lot of people were talking about how, well, for example, the Jacob Blake shooting, how he shot him in the back as he was leaving, you know, going into his car. And it's like, you know, in those instances, like when you're not cooperating with police, right? Like that's a big thing. You know, police officers can't just let you leave. Like, let's say that's all he was doing, like, and just left in his car. Like, they can't just let you leave because then you're endangering other human lives.
Yeah.
So it's like when they were like, oh, why did they have to shoot him? Why didn't they, you know, tackle him or grab him? Aside from him having a knife on him, you know, like, just like, why didn't they just let him run away or whatever? And it's like, well, what if he runs away and goes kills somebody or takes a hostage? You know, it's a lot of those things that you don't really consider but it's really easy for you to sit on the couch and be like, oh, that's messed up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's something you would never put in perspective unless you witness it firsthand.
Yeah.
So I guess being part of the Marine Corps, you are a big supporter of guns.
I am. I absolutely I'm all for the Second Amendment.
Yeah, you see the purpose of having a gun, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What makes the purpose of having a gun so useful and so worth having?
I tell people this all the time when I'm arguing this. The Second Amendment is probably the only amendment that makes sure that all other amendments are still going to be there.
Yeah.
I keep hearing like, oh, well, a bunch of amendments are obsolete. Like the housing of troops. It's like, okay,
Right.
but like, so. Okay, that one's obsolete. How long till the First Amendment's obsolete, or like till they decide it's obsolete?
Yeah.
And recently, I keep hearing a lot of like people saying like, we're still out here with the Second Amendment out and about, and I'm like, well, yeah, like we're literally in a civil war right now,
Yeah. There's a lot of that chaos and civil unrest going on.
So you want the government to have full power over us and take away our guns.
Yeah.
We're in a civil war. Like, we should be able to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, and it's a weird type of civil war. It's not like the olden days where it was just north or south. It's pretty much like left or right, and it's mostly online, social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and it's I mean, it definitely that's one of the issues also that people don't talk about is like that's what it's built for, well-regulated militia and all that stuff. You want to be able to fight off your oppressors, even if it's the government that governs you. And so it's not just about like whether should a normal dude have a gun and just, because a lot of people talk about the mass shootings and all that stuff, and it's like, well, again, that's one issue, but then again, if you disarm a group, like a people, in a society, and then, the government, let's say, wants to become, socialist, communist, or whatever, and they want to just take away your rights and do all this stuff, there's nothing stopping them if its society is not well armed, enough to combat them or to, at least make it harder for them to do so.
Yeah, especially with this whole defund the police, which I don't even know what it really stands for. I guess it's like a blanket term for something else, which it's fucking weird. But essentially, I don't know how safe we are now with the police not being supported enough, I have to admit, I don't like, I wouldn't want a police officer in my house, right? Because I never know if I'm doing anything wrong or, but in the end, they'll protect me if I'm in trouble, especially if I'm in trouble. There is just a lot of people have lost that trust because they see little instances and moments of this narrative that all police officers are bad, therefore you shouldn't trust them.
Yeah, and that's just the media, putting this image in the majority of America's heads is that, all cops are bad, and all they're trying to do is hunt people of color down and kill them. And it's like, it's dangerous, for people to see that and then not have trust in their police force and stuff like that. And whereas I completely will stand against any police officers that do abuse their power, we can't just label all of them as bad because that's not going to fix anything.
Absolutely.
You need to call out the bad cops when you see the bad cops and then do something about it to set a precedent so that more cops will not, will remember not to be, abusing of their power and such.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to ask you, was anything when you were growing up like leading you towards becoming a Marine Corps person?
I did have a lot of cousins. Well, I had one cousin specifically. He came back from Iraq. He was in during OEF. During OEF, and he came back, and I saw a change in him. I saw how a war changed him, and I wanted
to thousand yards stare.
Yeah, man, and it really that motivated me. I wanted to do
Wait, it motivated you seeing how like it changed one person?
I wouldn't. How should I explain it? You know, I wanted to be the change, if that makes sense. You know? I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to-
that was our first title of the podcast. Yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to be the change, and I wanted that for my life. You know, I wanted to fight for my country. I think that America gave my family so much opportunity. You know, because
yeah, that's what I feel, man. And a lot of kids nowadays, they feel like it's owed to them, like
Yeah, they're
like
entitled
they don't.
to it.
Yeah, entitlement has brought down this generation of kids who just should want to be better out there. And that's why they take it to the streets, and they use these crazy methods of fear mongering, these anti-fascist people that are using fascism to freaking combat people that they call fascists because they don't agree with them. And it's the darnest thing. It's so backwards. It's like, how do we get to this point where we have the most technology, most access to information at our fingertips, and then you end up with kids who don't know how to use it in the correct ways, like respect each other, be kind. Instead, it just becomes this whole thing of cussing each other or silencing or just blocking somebody. Like, you never have real conversations anymore.
And they don't use it to inform themselves, right?
Yeah,
They-
exactly. That's
like,
freaking crazy.
As powerful as the internet is as a tool, a lot of today's generation doesn't use it to inform themselves. They just read they don't even read the articles. They read the titles of the articles, and then they're like, "That's what I'm going with
that's gotta
today."
be it.
Yeah,
That's it.
that got me today. Actually, it was
I'm just gonna share this, and I'm gonna call people this and that because I read the article in bold letters, and I didn't even bother to read the actual paragraphs.
That got me today with it was an article that said remains of Carol Baskin's husband found, and I was like, "Fuck yes, finally!" And then I click it, and it ends up being a fucking Rick roll.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, look at that.
Got him. And I was like, "Fuck no!" Well, I'm like, "Wait, did I just do? Is this already like what it's programmed for me to do, just to follow the stupid, rabbit hole of like, oh, this is what the headline is important. This got to be true. Like, I got to follow it, even if it's not true."
Yeah, well, you wanted it to be true.
Yeah, I wanted it to be
that's
true.
and that's the
Fuck,
thing.
that's
like,
right.
A lot of people today, yeah, they want something, some big article that, they just read the title. They want it to be true so bad that they're almost afraid to read it, because if it's not the case, then it'll disprove whatever they believe about that subject. And you can see it on both sides, both, Democrat and Republican.
It's just these manipulation of these crazy companies, man. They have so much power over and influence over the clicks and the likes that they're able to trigger things within
Absolutely,
you.
man.
Yeah.
I realized the other day that the nature of life and everything that we have as human beings, especially here in America, is to get you to feel things. Like buying a car or a charger, Ralph.
Yeah.
You wanted to feel good when you bought it. You want to feel good driving it. And for me, whenever I get a new car, I'm excited, yes, and then all of a sudden it just becomes a car.
Yeah. I mean,
The car salesman sells you the dream, and you
Not
see
the
yourself.
car.
Yeah,
It's
not
a-
the car.
it's a
The
fast
car is just
car,
a
you
car. Yeah, it gets you places, but it's a dream that you see yourself driving in it. The thrill of it, and how much of your life have you noticed that you just wanted to feel things?
Yeah, I mean,
That's everybody, right?
Pretty much with everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you go into something expecting with all these thoughts in your head, and then you get it, and you're like, oh, that's it,
Yeah.
Like, that was,
Kind of like when we joined the military, these things, the ads and all this thing that the recruiters buy is they sell us the dream, right? You're gonna travel, you're gonna do this, which I love the fact that I got to travel, I got to see different people, I got to hear their stories. That's why I'm doing this podcast, because I love hearing people's stories. But pretty soon the tiredness of doing and fatigue of doing the same mediocre job over and over, just counting the days until you were able to get out, that was wearing me down internally. And it's hard because the machine never stops. The work never
Absolutely
stops. You
not.
never have a freaking break. You have as many as 30 days per year,
yeah.
but you said me and you, we came here and wasted them essentially thousands of dollars as well, right?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, plane tickets aren't cheap, especially during holidays.
Yeah,
You
which
know,
is yeah.
But yeah, I think I came back expecting the same thing, from it starting all over. But luckily, I was able to experience new things. With college, I made new friends. With my car, I was able to join a car club. Yeah, so I made new friends there too. And just overall, it's not what I expected, which is probably why it brought me down. But I got to go with what you got. What I'm saying?
Did you ever think of joining like a fraternity? Because I know a lot of Marine Corps and military people, they join fraternities because of that camaraderie that they once had.
Yeah, I have thought about it. I just started UTRGV, so I have thought about it. I know there's a couple, but I just, with all this COVID, I haven't really.
Yeah, it's not really time for the hazing that goes on behind the scenes that nobody hears about.
I bet you won't lick this doorknob.
Yeah. Where's that from?
I'm just saying. Just in general.
Remember, licking doorknobs in other planets is illegal.
Yeah, that's from SpongeBob.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just a different experience that everybody has, and we end up, I guess, not getting suckered into it because I honestly saw a purpose to what I was doing, to serving my country. I come from Mexico myself, and this country has given me like a lot, despite has given me more than what I ever had in Mexico. Absolutely. So I just wanted to have that ambition of having more. I was given this opportunity for a reason. You know how hard it is to come to this country through the legal way. And for me to just waste it and be another person, that seems like such a waste. Yeah,
man. I when I joined the military, I definitely had that same mindset. I was first.
Where do you come from?
I'm from McAllen. I was born in McAllen, raised in Mission, but I'm first generation military. I was the first person ever from my immediate family to join the military.
Yeah.
My cousin is cousin by law, so he's the one that motivated me to join, but he's not the one. He's not like, he's part of the family, but he's not part of my immediate
I gotcha. Yeah.
So being the first generation military, is a big responsibility. I think like what you do defines the rest of like generations to come.
That's true.
I don't want the next generation to be like, oh, my grandpa was a Marine, but he got out with a bad conduct or something,
Yeah.
So that's definitely what I had in mind throughout my entire military career. I didn't want to mess it up. I wanted to make my family proud, to bring honor to my family, essentially.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's the biggest thing for me. The 4 years that I did, and to be honest, I wanted to do 20. I just
Right. I've been there, man. You're like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to serve my 20 years and get a retirement and all this stuff. And sometimes life doesn't work out. And then you have to start all over and find like meaning and reason to why you went this path. And it ended up kind of abruptly, to be honest.
Yeah, man. And I don't know. I try and find things out here that have meaning for me,
Yeah.
I try to join. I'm a criminal justice major, so I try and find like criminal justice clubs to do things with. I try and do veteran things. That's why I love working at 5x5. It's mostly
very veteran oriented.
Yeah,
especially it caters to the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Where's my representation?
So I mean, working there is definitely a big thing for me. That. I love going to work. I love beer, so I
love beer too, man.
Yeah, you can't really hate the job.
Yeah. The perks. And then talking to people of all backgrounds, right? I think that's what you love about it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Having people from all over, having people in the Air Force, Army, Navy, even Coast Guard. I've met a couple Coast Guard people.
The sprinkle of Coast Guardies, huh?
Yeah, and you get a lot of people that don't know about 5x5 coming there too. They're like, oh, what's this? you know, I see all these flags. Like, what exactly is 5x5? And I
have you guys yet have had a person that complains about the flags or like the things?
No,
Or,
not,
okay, great.
yeah, not since I've worked there, but I have had people with like no idea what 5x5 is. They just think it's a bar, you know, and that's not the case. You know, we're a brewery
we're family. It's a sense of community.
Yeah, man, and I that's the biggest thing for me is having a sense of community with the people around me. You know, I like being able to have a friendly face, come in and, you know, just have a normal conversation like we are
nice
now.
beer, yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
sometimes we feel like that's the only place where we can feel safe, right?
Absolutely.
It's almost like a safe haven for veterans to have this new opinion and new view on
you know, or might have trouble integrating with society normally.
Yes.
You know, it might help a lot to be around people who understand, you know, your experiences and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I can't talk about half the things that I've gone through with my wife. You know,
Yeah.
she doesn't know what's going on.
Or your normal friends.
Yeah, or my normal friends, or even my family. You know, I can't talk to them. So that's why I love going to the VA Medical Center, and I love going to.
Oh, they've done a
5x5.
fantastic job with President Trump, because I would hear the horror stories of the Obama administration and how the veterans were not being treated the way they should be, because they couldn't be fired or they couldn't be removed from that position. Like, they just got comfortable just getting a nice steady paycheck and not really doing the job that they're supposed to do as far as taking care of veterans and their needs, because that's an important part. Like, these are people that they went through so much, and for you to disregard completely the work they've done,
Their sacrifices.
Yeah, their sacrifices, and, you know, or their mental health, for the scars that you can't see. Those are very important, because if managed incorrectly, that could do a lot of harm to their families, and their family might not understand where they're coming from. So I think it's great that the VA now has gotten to that point where you can tell your therapist things that you were not able to tell other people, because they might have a specific bias or have a way of reacting to the things that you've experienced that they have no idea how to compute in that.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, 5x5 is definitely the place to go if you want to talk to other veterans. You know, I can't stress enough that if veterans need to talk to someone, find someone in your community that can help. You know, even the VFW, you know, that's kind of a dying thing now, sadly.
Yeah.
But the VFW is definitely there for everyone.
Yeah, it just seems like the VFWs have catered more to those older members than the young people who are trying to find their place in life, and you kind of feel excluded from that.
Yeah, definitely.
They went through like things like the Vietnam War, where they were not well liked or well received, but in today's, or more towards like the Bush years, where it started, where it was support our troops, right? Because and absolutely nobody disagreed with that. It was almost kind of scary, right? Because it was just getting this immense amount of support to a cause that a lot of people weren't fully aware of what was going on exactly.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I definitely feel like the time from 2000 to 2013 was definitely when people were the most united. You know.
Yeah.
I definitely think that's around the time where everyone felt that the military was the greatest thing in the world. You know. Honestly,
still is, man.
Yeah, it definitely still is, but
there's problems. There's problems, like the incident at Fort Hood that happened.
Well, I think what like going more on Ralph's point, in that time frame, like you said, 2013, I think that's when the majority of Americans actually loved America.
Absolutely.
I feel like we've lost the love for our flag, you know, what America stands for, and nowadays you just see, you know, everybody's like, America is an X place. It's a bigot, it's a racist place, it's a sexist, misogynist place, it's an all these bad things place, when in my opinion, I completely think it's the opposite. I think we're the only country who's made success in all of these fronts to the point where now we have to bring old problems back. You know, we have
we're the most diverse melting pot in the world.
Yeah, and women and minorities have the best opportunities to succeed here than in any other place in the world.
Absolutely, man. I truly think the people that hate America and what it stands for are the same ones that would not last a day anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think we had that conversation where
Probably.
where we were just saying yesterday how these kids they would have if these problems were really if they really cared about these problems that were going on, they would try to solve them in other countries
where they're actually prominent.
Yeah, where they're actually prominent, like where the LGBT community isn't welcome, where the women's rights are still not even happening. You know, like there's people out there who ostracize women and they make them feel like just nothing more than property.
Yeah,
but they kind of like brainwash them a little bit to make them think like, yeah, this is the way it should be. And there's nowhere else in the world that has this amount of freedom where you can openly criticize your politicians or anybody without any fear or reprimand. It's almost like it's welcomed at this point. Like,
well, and that's you know, again, a lot of internet culture, right? You know, you're exposed to memes and you see stuff like that. So I saw one meme that was like, you know, people criticize American politics because they can't criticize their own country's politics, you know, because like you said, without fear of reprimand or, you know, being shipped off somewhere or whatever, you know, like
it's scary, man. You know, it's a scary thing.
Like in China, you know, like there's a lot of, you know, people protesting out there, you know, wanting America to give, you know, to help them out and stuff like that. And again, people like that get disappeared by their own government. There's a lot of things that are going on that, you know, that again would never happen here and stuff like that. Well, we think would never happen, but are not happening here. And again, those people who are really oppressed by their government, you know, they have every reason to dislike their political machine and all that stuff. Whereas here, you're encouraged to disagree with politics. You're encouraged to, you know, say, I mean, you can literally burn the flag if you want to, and as much as, you know, us American loving people don't like to see it, I mean, that's still a form of expression.
Yeah, it's still their right, man. And fuck, I mean, I'll fight fucking to the death for them to be able to express themselves. Just be prepared for the consequences of what you are trying to say to other people.
Yeah.
You know, you brought up China, and you know, they were in the middle of a civil war themselves. The
Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, the Hong Kong. And I'm looking at these photos, and the military has all these guns, riot shields, you know, this equipment. These people are literally fighting them with arrows. You know, that's insane.
Going prehistoric on them.
That's insane, man. Like, I just don't want that here in America.
Absolutely.
That's why I truly believe that the Second Amendment is probably the most important. Honestly, I truly believe that's probably the most important.
No, yeah, and what you said made a lot of sense. Like, even if people value the right of free speech more, I mean, you can't maintain that amendment without being able to protect it, like
Absolutely,
you said. So yeah, man, it's interesting, and again, you know, all this you know, talk of socialism and stuff that you hear from the left.
The no guns, the ban guns.
I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? It's like they there's no need for an AR-14 that can shoot 1,000 rounds per second. You know, which again, it's like when you hear a lot of politicians talk about, you know, guns, a lot of them don't even understand how they work or have ever used one.
A revolver with
they'll let their
30 round clip.
Exactly.
With a magazine and a scope, you know.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, you were saying AR-14s, which is fucking a thing that you were saying about Joe Biden, right?
Yeah, it's a gaffe that one of his many gaffes.
The assault rifle 14. Yeah, it's not even the AR doesn't stand for assault rifle, right?
No, it doesn't. It stands for Armalite. But yeah, no, and that's the thing, man. They're pushing for gun laws, you know, that make no sense. They're trying to, and here's the thing that baffles me the most. I'll tell you this. There's people who don't like guns to the point where they think no one should have guns. Which, okay. maybe I can understand where they're coming from. I don't agree with it, but I can understand where they're coming from. What I don't understand is people who are anti-gun and then want to defund the police. So like, where does that leave you at all? Like, you hate the police, so what? You want to defund them? No one to call in the event that someone's trying to break in or hurt you or whatever, or in case of any emergency. And then no guns. You're not even able to defend yourself. So it's like, that's what really confuses me. I don't know where that sentiment is even coming from.
Defund the police doesn't really means defund the police. It's
it just means to reallocate, which is to take funds from the police and put them somewhere else, which would still defund them by definition.
Or even if you're those people that want to allocate the funds towards better training or having safe procedures to get criminals to comply. Well, I don't know if you heard this, but criminals don't comply. That's the whole point of being a criminal.
Yeah,
and they should be carried to the full extent of law. Like, they should have a fair and speedy trial, just like everything else. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you're right. The Second Amendment is there so that we can do that. Otherwise, what's the point?
It's the first response before the first responders arrive.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely. Just like in these protesters in Kenosha, like they're rioting against police and burning down buildings and stuff. But then as soon as someone gets shot, it's like, hey, that guy just shot.
Yeah, call the cops.
Police, call the cops.
Yeah.
They just
arrest that man.
Yeah, it's like, well, should we? I don't know. Seems like you're the bad guy here.
What are you trying to do? Like, either you need us or you don't, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. At this point, I feel like their priorities are in the wrong place.
Right.
I think...
well, they're just being an echo chamber of whatever they're being told to believe, right?
Yeah.
The loudest voices always seem to prevail over those who don't really know how to form their own opinions or stand up to those who just want to do things the right and peaceful way. But the crazy people that go out and they scream at you and they try to make you to incite violence, right? So they can either... be the victim themselves, like, oh my god, look at this, or they can just silence you by bashing you and calling you names that true to your heart that don't stand for who you are. It just seems like they want to shun you and make you this evil person, like everybody is supposed to just cater to them.
Right. Well, in my opinion, what the BLM riots, and here's the thing, let's clear the air. There's a difference between a peaceful protest and a riot, and the media does a bad job of covering them fairly, right? There's definitely people who just want to walk down the street, speak their mind, and we should hear them. But the riots, that's a different thing. I think the BLM riots have become a form of terror in a way, where they're trying to terrorize. It's domestic terrorism, where they're trying to get people to forcibly agree with a narrative or an agenda that, like I said, by force. They're trying to, scare you. There's businesses that may not believe in the cause, but they'll have Black Lives Matter posted in front of their stores or something, just so that they're not targeted by the rioters.
It's a good thing they don't believe in guns.
Right. So I mean, and that's the thing. It's become a form of terror, and like I said, the media does a bad job of covering it fairly. They want to make it seem like, oh, this is all just peaceful, just blanket statement.
Right.
All forms of protesting are being peaceful. There's no riots going on. There's no one having their businesses burnt to the ground and all that stuff.
Yeah, to depend on the media, it's almost ludicrous because you're getting it from the source of people just in office. Like, they have an agenda? They don't want you to think for yourself. Like, they want you to echo whatever they're trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I see the media, I absolutely hate the media.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it.
The mainstream media?
The mainstream media.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they're going to do what sells, and
yep, absolutely.
Riots sell, not like that's what's going to bring in the views. That's what's going to...
And people who support socialism are using capitalism to promote it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the funniest
thing. It's like, look
thing.
at me recording it on my new iPhone.
Yeah. It's
like, everybody should have an iPhone.
Buy my pro-socialism shirt.
Yeah.
Represent it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. But I definitely think we're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Even nowadays, I love the military and all this, but sometimes I'm worried if I tell the wrong person I joined the military, I'm gonna get fucking.
What? No, that shouldn't even be a.
Well, it doesn't even like it doesn't scare me. It's just like it's a matter of like I expect it now. You know, I expect people to hate me now. You know, and I was actually seeing this on Twitter. You know,
Oh man, that's such a shame.
Yeah, it really is. You know,
Yeah,
I
for
wanted,
sure.
I joined the military, you know, wanting to be the change just to get out and get bashed on by people. I see it a lot on Twitter, you know, that we're in other countries terrorizing these kids, which is not the case. You know, I absolutely love what I did over there. I helped a lot. I hope to have helped a lot of people. You know?
Yeah, of all skin colors, of all races, of
Yeah.
all backgrounds. Like the military is primarily colorblind.
Yeah.
Like if anything, I admire with the Tuskegee Airmen because that comes from my Air Force history, where it's African American men who were put into positions where they were able to fly aircraft, and they had their own segregated unit, which it's kind of scary, right? Because they're fighting for a country that no matter what they still loved. It was still their home. As much as they didn't like the segregation or anything, they still fought to end the wars or to train the new generation of airmen.
Right. Well, because in general, those people have a vision for the future.
Oh yeah,
right? It's
that's
like,
what you gotta have nowadays.
And that's what we lack during this generation. Like we're so entitled, for the majority of millennials, they're so entitled and they only care about themselves. But my father is really big into like preserving and fighting to make the world we're in better for the future generation. And that's what I feel like those people had in mind. And same for the people that were fighting through the civil rights era, all that stuff. You gotta try to make a change for the better in the world, knowing you might not be alive to see it when it happens. You just have to do your part.
Absolutely, man.
I think I even read I was watching this video that explained how even soldiers from opposing side would, between the battles, they would go and meet halfway and have a cup of coffee or whiskey, and then just because they knew that at the end of this there was still a future for their kids or their future kids, regardless if they were going to make it out of the war or not. They still felt like they were going to be united somehow, or they were going to be neighbors somehow at the end of all this.
And I want to make it clear that I absolutely love my military career. I just hate that.
It can't be all good and it can't be all bad, but you take the good of what you can.
Yeah, and it just saddens me to think that there's people out there that think we did wrong. That think we're terrorizing other countries.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know if. Like I will absolutely always tell people I was in the military. I absolutely love what I did. I love that I'm a Marine. But I will never. But I always have to keep in mind that this person might not like.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
and that's kind of the similar thing going on with police officers nowadays. It's like like you're talking about that. It's the same thing as like demoralizing the police. It's like why go to work, risk getting shot, risk not coming home to your family and kids just so that people online can bash you and call you a racist pig, murderer.
Extremely demoralizing, man. Like
It's sad. It's sad that that's what's happening. But again, it goes back to like people not understanding and people just taking the narrative that's painted by the media at face value.
Yeah, they don't know what they don't never put themselves. I guess it's kind of like the movie The Joker, right? They don't know what it's like to be somebody like me. They don't never see themselves as the other guy.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think like the whole all cops are bastards thing it's kind of messed up because you can't really
Generalize.
Yeah, like if that's the case, then all directors are pedophiles and rapists. All movie artists and stuff like that. They're all. You can't generalize these people because there's generally good people out there.
Yeah.
I've met bad cops. I've met good cops.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like I've been pulled over by a cop who just wanted to harass me, but I've met others that they thank me for my service. They tell me that I did a great thing, and those are the people that I confide in. Those are the people that give me hope.
Exactly.
Yeah, you ever been pulled over and then they just let you go after looking at your military ID, right?
Or they see my disabled veteran license
Oh,
plate.
yeah.
They're like, oh, you good?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so sorry about that. They just have
Just
a
slow
small
down,
chat. Yeah, just slow down. And I was like, I barely got this car. I'm gonna run it.
No, yeah, and that's absolutely right, man. You can't generalize things because that's in that case that's the same thing. Like like for the whole Black Lives Matter protests and stuff like that. Like, not all black men are bad, but we should be able to say, hey, when there's a black guy who committed a crime, you know, we should be able to arrest this guy. And if he's resisting arrest, again, of course, anyone.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying this as an example. Like, if you're gonna say, you know, you can't say all cops are bad. You can't say all black people are bad. You can't say all Mexicans are bad. You can't say all for anything. But as an example, yeah, like you have to be able to call out the bad apples when you see them.
Yeah,
bad
the one
cops, bad of people of any race.
The one thing that I'm not getting is I'm not getting this narrative about Jacob Blake, and like he's still alive, right?
He's paralyzed, but he's alive.
But it seems like they're taking it as like this hero, this person that got shot and survived against the police brutality and do you know anything about that one?
The Jacob Blake, yeah.
That's what started the Kenosha riot, right?
Absolutely.
We can't even call it a protest. That's what saddens all about this, because it just turns into rioting because of the bad people that want to take...
And people who come from another state to go burn and loot and riot.
By the busloads.
Yeah, man, it's really sad because, like, it's Kyle Rittenhouse, you know. There's the left and right calling him here. Personally, I don't think... A lot of people are glorifying him, you know, like, yes, he protected himself, good for him, but I feel genuinely sad for these people he killed, you know, like those people were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, it was like some people said like, oh, that guy has a gun, go get him, and then like just the pawns or they just went forward.
Yeah. Well, here's my stance on it. Like, I do think Kyle Rittenhouse is a hero. And I also feel sad for those.
An unfortunate hero.
Well, yeah, of course. But I'm saying, like, the people who lost their lives, I feel bad for them. But at the same time, it's like I've said in a previous episode. At what point do we have to draw the line, right? Like, do we just let them roam through the cities and destroy and burn everything? Or do we decide as Americans that we want to protect our private property and decide, if you come over here, you should be willing to understand that you're forfeiting, your life if you're going to, target me and my family, because it's like, that's the thing, since the police at this point can't really get involved immediately. Trump's hitting walls with governors and mayors that won't let him deploy the National Guard
to keep the peace.
The average American, and why we have guns. That's, again, it's unfortunate that those people lost their lives, but
it's really awesome.
At the same time, what Kyle Rittenhouse was doing was trying. I mean, really, what started it was he had a fire extinguisher and he put out a dumpster that was on fire that they were planning to push into a building. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like this dude was just had good intentions to help prevent more destruction and potentially harm of other people, death of other people, and then he was attacked for it. And so again, at that point, that's where I stand. I think that more Americans should take up arms and decide to say, no, this is enough. You're not going to come through here and destroy our livelihoods just because you want to destroy something. You don't have an actual cause behind what you're doing. You just want
destruction.
It's opportunism to just spread
it makes you wonder what would be the narrative if he had died,
right?
Like would they even have cared,
No, of course not. They would have just like...
Well, I mean, look at what happened with the Trump supporter who was shot point blank. The BLM and all those supporters, Antifa, they cheered. They say that a Nazi's dead. This is just a guy who was wearing a cap, the wrong cap, I suppose. And then he was targeted. In the audio, it says like, "Oh, look, there's a Trumper right over there." They go up to him, pop, he's dead. There we go. Again, Kyle Rittenhouse, the same thing would have happened to him. They would have assaulted him. They would have, if they did take his rifle and shot him with it,
they would have killed more people probably. Who knows? Who knows?
I just feel like he would have just been, just swept under the rug, and the media would have just brushed over it with a broad brush and just say, "Oh, well,
because the narrative doesn't fit, right?"
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And so again, I commend Kyle Rittenhouse for what he did. I think it's sad that he was put in a position to have to do it.
especially so young, man. That dude,
Exactly.
he was
Yeah.
17 years old.
I can't even imagine me being a 17-year-old.
Yeah, it's at age 17. Who's thinking about their community at that level? You know, because this kid was, you know, all about it. You know, he wanted to help, he wanted to protect, he wanted to, you know, serve his community in every way that he could, and so he was put in a position that was very unfortunate, was very scary.
Yeah.
You know, he was.
There was no reason for a 17-year-old kid to grab a gun and feel the need to do it, but it's because there's people who have intense emotions to just go out there and create chaos for
Right.
the purpose of whatever they think is going on or whatever they're being told.
Whatever it may be.
We're not practicing individualism anymore. We're practicing, this weird, chaotic thing where we are, I guess, there's a certain particular narrative that's going on that fuels the rage every single time.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't get any clicks or it doesn't serve a purpose for them to have a politician in power,
And it kind of makes you sad, man, because like this kid
Makes you very sad.
This kid had no reason to be out there. I was at that age at 17. I wasn't even thinking about
Right.
I'm gonna go fight this civil war. I mean, I was on my way to the military, but I think that's completely different.
Yeah, and times were different at the time.
Absolutely. And when I was 17, I was hanging out with friends. I was going out to do what regular people do.
Yeah, just kids. Yeah.
And to see him get arrested for protecting himself is really
Or be
sad.
called a murderer or a hunter,
Yeah, that narrative is super crazy, right? Like how they turned this kid into like some monster that was just hunting down people protesting peacefully, right? Because again, despite all the fires and destruction, it was a peaceful protest. So yeah, that narrative that they painted Kyle Rittenhouse as this hunter/monster murderer, that's sad in and of itself. It's sad that he had to defend himself. It's sad that he was put in that situation. But at the same time, I do see him. I do see his actions as heroic, and I think that as Americans, especially people who have a close knit community, they should get together, and just like our Constitution allows to have a militia, a well regulated militia, we should be able to come together and decide, hey, if things are coming this way, people from out of our state who want to terrorize our community, destroy our livelihood, all that stuff, I think we should have the right to say no to that, to say, no, we're not going to let you. I mean, otherwise, what's the point? We should be able to defend ourselves when our government can't.
Yeah, when our government is being told that they shouldn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of red tape that's preventing the government from getting involved, and then there's local police that are demoralized and being defunded, and so again, it to me, I don't like to see it, but I think that's the option that we're left with. That we have to resort to at this point.
That's the way we're headed, to be honest, man. It's.
And being in the military, I'm sure you saw your fair share of red tape, right?
Yeah.
Of we should do this, but we can't because X, Y, and Z, or it's not in the manual, or what is the Marine Corps instructions like?
Well, we have our escalation of force just like anything else, know.
But I mean, like, where's your dress code and all that? Written, because I know for the Air Force it's the AFI Air Force instructions.
Yeah, it's a Marine Corps order. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of orders. I don't even know how.
The general orders.
Yeah, it's kind of like
they only teach you the important ones, right?
Yeah, like at the end of the day, you think you know everything, but then you look inside that thing at that book, and you're like, wow, there's a lot more than
more than meets the eye.
Yeah, and then there's like those people that their leader go ahead and tells them what to do, and it's like, actually you can't because it says in here. Yeah. Which we need those people, unfortunately. we need those people to be able to call out, but that's how it should be. We should be able to call out these incorrect fallacies that we are being told.
I think people are too afraid to nowadays. They
like you said. That's why the Second Amendment is so important.
Yeah.
That's why like people are afraid to say what Oscar was saying right now.
Yeah.
Because then they'll see, oh, that dude's against Black Lives Matter. You know that,
Right,
Yeah.
which I'm not. Like, well, here's the thing. I am against police brutality, and I will stand with anybody who's been a victim of police brutality, and I'll fight to end it.
You know, it's a real problem that you should be able to call out.
Right, at any point. But the Black Lives Matter movement isn't that. It's not fighting police brutality. You know, it's what's it doing? What has it accomplished for black people besides destroying their livelihood? 32 people have died as a result of the riots when only 8 have been shot by police this year, or whatever the number is, right? It's like, it really doesn't make sense to me, because it's not going forth and pushing the agenda. They're not fighting police brutality. They're fighting just regular communities of people who are just trying to get by.
Mm-hmm. They're destroying people of the same communities.
Exactly. You know, black people have suffered more from the Black Lives Matter riots than anybody else. And so, again, I don't stand with Black Lives Matter because I don't think they're fighting for what they think they're fighting for.
I think it's because the leftist parties and all these corporations are using these general blanket terms. So, like, when you hear it and you feel passionate about making a change, you put that in your head, right? Like, oh, clearly I'm against racism. Like,
so I have to
everybody,
do this to do
they
it.
like you were saying, they subscribe to all these things that they're not in favor of, but for the purpose of fighting racism. And I see where they want to be fighting something like that, because nobody should ever be judged by the color of their skin.
Right.
But it seems
that's
like
just not the way that it's happening.
Exactly, because they're trying to get this narrative of like, okay, so you are just Black Lives Matter, and it's like a trigger point of like wherever it hits you in your heart.
Yeah,
right?
well, I mean,
it gets you to fight in crazy ways because of how it makes you feel inside, because it could mean whatever you want it to be, essentially. So you're fighting whatever you think it means, therefore you're very passionate about it.
And the thing is, the easiest way to control somebody is to make them mad. You know, in every abusive, manipulative relationship, what do you see? They put a thought in their head that makes them angry. And then from there, they play the victim. And then from there, they get them to do whatever they want. So the media has just painted this narrative that all cops are out there hunting black people and shooting them, you know, and that's why you see like the Jacob Blake headline. What was it? It was, unarmed black man shot in the back in front of his children, which that's not exactly how it happened. There's a lot more that leads up to it.
And the headline is like pretty on spot
it's the attention grabber.
Yeah.
And so again, someone
clickbait.
who just is basing everything that they do based off of emotions, they're gonna see that, they're gonna get mad, and then they're gonna go and destroy things and hurt anybody who might oppose them. Which is why you see like people, Black Lives Matter, and then someone just says, well, all lives matter, right? Which is a pretty, I guess, reasonable thing to say, because all lives do matter. They say, well, then that means you hate black lives. And then boom, chaos.
Yeah, they
Boom.
automatically want you to pitch for the other side, or they assume you're pitching for the other side, right?
They assume that when you say all lives matter, it means black lives don't, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
All lives matter includes black people, but but in an equal setting where we're all the same, where we should be angry about police brutality against any race, not just black people.
Exactly.
So
man.
so if Black Lives Matter were to change their name to just end police brutality, I'd be all for it. But it's not the case, because that's not what they're doing, and that's
but then
not
you
what
lose
they're fighting about.
subscribers, you know.
Well, I mean, I think we should stop focusing so much on race and more on actual solutions to real problems. So if like police brutality is a real problem, it's a problem for all races, we should end it across the board. We shouldn't just focus on these like, oh, you know, this black man was shot, even though, you know, it may have been justified or not. That doesn't matter. He's black, therefore we must attack these towns that are just minding their own business.
Yeah, and
I don't agree with that.
And that's what we get with this side that just wants to shut out the other side, because I guess they they want to be dismissive of the people who are trying to come up with real solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cooler heads, like, nah, you don't matter because you don't care. You know, it's like, yes, I do care. I absolutely, that's why I'm here. But unfortunately, I want to do this the right way. I want to do this where we can sit down and have a good conversation, because we're just talking, we're so busy talking past each other. It's almost like we've become social media. We're in a sense of where we just see what's on their profile and we just scrap it away because of whatever we think they believe in means the opposite of what I believe in. And we
there's nuance in all of this.
Yeah, and
you know, in every big problem that we have, there's a lot of gray that we need to try to find.
Hey, great spot.
Look at that.
Great space. Fuck yeah. So Ralph, how did you come about just working at 5x5 and engaging in with so many veterans? Like, I know you wanted a job that helps you get in touch with people kind of similar backgrounds, similar struggles. But how did you find out about the job, or what made you actually look forward to going there?
Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you the story on how it happened. Actually, I was working at Barnes and Noble, which don't ever work there. I absolutely hate it. I absolutely hated it. Honestly, I didn't feel I belonged. You know, no one
understood.
Yeah, no one understood what I was going through, and I was working there. I was miserable. Like, you know, you want to get up and go to a job that you love. You know, and you get up and you're like, okay, I'm going to work. You know, it's another day. But with this job, I just couldn't do that. Yeah, I had friends there and stuff, but not someone I can relate to.
Right, and that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one day I was at home and Cody calls me. He's like, "Hey man, you."
How did you know Cody?
We've been friends for years.
Fuck Cody.
Yeah, we've been friends for years, man. We grew up together. I think since sixth grade, seventh grade. We kind of separated a little bit after high school, but I mean that, like I said, that happens a lot. But he called me one day and he's like, "Hey man, I heard you're working at Barnes and Noble, and it doesn't seem like I heard you hate it, you know, because I tell people all the time."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Would you want to work here?" I was like, "Absolutely, dude."
Yeah.
Literally, as soon as I hung up, I called my boss and I was like, "Hey, I'm quitting."
Yeah.
You can't fire me.
So I mean, it was.
It's like, you're still showing up, right?
It was a blessing, man. Honestly, I was not expecting that call that Cody gave me.
It's a good change of pace for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I made a bunch of good friends. You know, I didn't know George before this, and George is a good guy. You know, I didn't know there's another guy named Jorge. I didn't know him. He's a good guy too. And just all the people I've met just working there, I gained a lot more. I've been working there since February. I've gained a lot more since February till now than I did in the 2 years I worked at Barnes and Noble.
Oh, wow. Money wise or experience wise?
Experience wise.
Okay.
And just I talked to customers at Barnes and Noble, but it was never a connection like I do at 5x5. You know, I can't. You know, I can't be that psychiatrist or psychologist that that you say we are.
Yeah.
You know, and
sorry, wrong bartender, guys.
We kind of have a way of talking to customers at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
And if you stray away from that, it's kind of like go back.
Yeah. No, you have a specific rapport with the clientele of that business. You know, it's a different beast. You know, it's not bookworms. It's people who've actually had those experiences that you talked about earlier, who've been through some stuff and can relate to you, like you said. That's good, man.
Yeah, so I definitely love working at 5x5. I hope to work there until I finish college, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And if you can do something to expand that, yeah, you'd be willing to do it, or at least in the same sense where you want to help other veterans.
Absolutely.
In the end, aren't you just trying to help yourself by helping others? Absolutely.
Like I was telling my wife yesterday, I want to, you know, I want to find meaning out here.
Yeah.
Like I did in the military, you know, because I generally just think I'm going with the flow right now, you know. I love what I'm studying. I love, you know, I'm a criminal justice major with a minor in philosophy, you know, and I love both those subjects. But at this
that's
point,
why we're here, man. We're like, you know, amateur philosophers over here all the time.
Yeah, and at this point, I just feel like I'm just riding along, you know, and I was telling my wife, like, I need to find meaning in something, and I love helping veterans, you know, like transitioning veterans too. You know, I'm talking to higher ranking people than me telling them what to do once they get out. You know, like that's kind of unheard of. You know, like you would think
the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely good to work at 5x5 because I get that opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's good, man. Y'all want to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Cool.
Hi, and we're back. Now, Ralph, you were talking about how you're a big supporter of guns and how all gun laws are infringing on the Second Amendment a little while ago with us as we were getting tea. This time it's tea, not some 5x5, so we're great. We're great. It definitely helps calming the nerves. If anybody wants to be a tea drinker, this is the place to start. So
yeah.
So you were saying how you're a supporter of George Jorgensen, the third-party libertarian candidate.
Yes, I am. I feel that most of my political beliefs and things like that fall more towards her. You know, obviously there's some things that I don't agree with, but in regards to the other candidates, I think I'm more of her on her side.
Yeah.
You know, I will say that other candidates do have strong points, but I like I said, I just think that she's the one who really defines my political beliefs.
Yeah, it represents you the best.
Yeah,
and that's important for today's political climate, is for people to pick the candidate that they choose that best kind of lines with their beliefs and their political views, not so much to be swayed by the parties or any other type of narrative that's being pushed on the general public.
Yeah, one thing that pisses me off is when you're pushing people to make choices on the things that you don't like. You're making people choose between the lesser of two evils, or as a candidate, you're saying, oh, he's the bad guy, choose me. But you don't really win that way. You don't get to the White House by naming the other guy, labeling the other guy as the enemy, which is insane to me, because you have to know who you're supporting and why.
Yeah.
And you win on ideas. You win on how to get people to feel things. With the election of Donald Trump, I felt that I was very proud of my country. I was very proud of my service. I was extremely proud to be part of a new generation that wanted to change things as energized as it was, instead of Hillary Clinton, how it seems like all her rallies they were just like some edited thing that was very well rehearsed. It didn't feel normal. It didn't feel natural or organic. Versus with Donald Trump, the guy was able to say whatever he wanted, and it got people to feel that passion for the pride of being in America. That's what people chose to elect him president. And they definitely did not trust somebody that was enabling this culture of leaving people behind because it didn't serve their political needs. Essentially, Democrats stopped going after the middle class because they thought they had it in the bag, right? Like they already started taking the working class vote for granted, or they didn't care to even court people like us. And so how did you choose your candidate in the last election?
See, in the last election, like I said, I was just kind of going with the flow. You know, I didn't vote, which a lot of people hate me for some reason. But I feel that's my right, you know, if I wanted to vote or not.
Yeah.
That's your privacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And but at the end of the day, I feel I was leaning more towards Trump. But I really didn't feel connected to his political beliefs.
Right.
You know? So when I first heard about Jo Jorgensen, I had never heard of her. No one even brought up her name around me. So when I looked more into her, I was like, okay, this makes sense to me. This like what she wants is what I want, you know? So that's how I came about her, and that's how I based my decision. So I definitely think, although people say, you know, third party vote is a wasted vote,
I don't agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't agree with it either. You know, that's the reason it's a wasted vote, because of people with that mindset.
Yeah,
you
people
know?
who think like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely think we need to give her more of a chance. I definitely think we need to give her the opportunity to let her know what she can do for us. You know.
Yeah, the problem is we're so left with having a binary choice, right? You have to be either Democrat or Republican, or else it doesn't matter. And a lot of people don't understand that there are other choices. However, I think because of the media frenzy, it makes you feel like you don't have a choice unless it's these two. Like which side, which issue is most important to you, and which candidate do you trust that can handle that? And I get what you mean when you say that all gun laws are infringing on the rights. And like our guest yesterday, he mentioned that he didn't really understand why a lot of Republicans were the ones that pass more gun laws, and that's our grievance, right? We don't like that as well. However, I think at some point we feel like they're coming for our rights and our gun laws, and the only people that we trust is the folk that we know that support gun laws. So it kind of takes me back a little bit to have you ever read that book by Jonathan Steinbeck of Mice and Men?
Oh yes, I have.
Yeah, you remember like he had to shoot his best friend, otherwise they were gonna, the mob was gonna kill him. So I kind of got that in my own mindset because of how I viewed AOC, how she's a woman that she has this economics degree and she feels like she can take on the economy and bring it to a socialism type of place because she thinks she's that smart apparently, which I completely disagree with.
In a perfect world, yes, but unfortunately we don't live in a perfect world. We do live in a world where we have to think more than just what we want. We have to think about what are the repercussions of this happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I definitely think that she is in way over her head about a lot of things actually. And for her to be in such a high position, it's very very unfortunate because a lot of people feed into this. They
want to see like that perfect world. And
well, just look at all the Bernie supporters. That's pretty much what he was pushing, and that's how those people felt and wanted Bernie to be in office and in the White House. And so it's like man, it's a big thing to today's generation to
just want and have nothing
right.
to back it up with.
Yeah, just want and they feel like they deserve everything to be free without realizing that nothing actually is free. And I mean, for even like people like you guys who've been in the military, you always hear that freedom isn't free.
Absolutely,
we
fucking
lose,
costs a lot, man.
We lose a lot of good people, and a lot of people make a lot of good people make sacrifices for the average American civilian that goes unseen and unheard of. And yeah, as regular civilians going through life, we might not take into consideration all of what we do put on the line just to have the ability to walk down the street and feel safe and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
Yeah. I know you're a big fan of wanting to make a change, right? And I just ask, like, how feasible do you think it is for somebody like her to get into the White House, or what would we need in order for somebody that's not either Republican or Democrat to actually have a chance at the White House?
See, like a bunch of things are really stopping her from voicing her opinion. In debates, only two parties are usually allowed. And I want her to get the opportunity to be able to debate with the other presidential candidates. I truly think if people became more educated on her, we would have a lot more supporters. You know?
I definitely think that. Like for the people who are politically homeless right now that don't really know
politically homeless, I like that.
Yeah, like just people who don't really have an idea of where politics are.
Yeah.
Like I definitely encourage them to just start looking, and consider all the options. Don't just let the media trick you into thinking there's two options. And this is coming from someone who is pro-Trump. I think that everyone should get a fair shake. And I feel also that since, and I mentioned this in a previous episode, how like the Democratic Party is kind of split in two, right? You got like the radical wingers that are just
the
like
Bernie Bros and socialism,
and people who are just more of that nature, and then you got like people who are just trying to be moderates but be Democrats, and then they just feel like they've been kind of let down by all the candidates. Like if you really think about it, like
the party has gone left, like way left,
right, and where it leaves like the moderates who are just normal people who just happen to be Democrat without a reasonable person to vote for, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
what are they gonna do if they do get elected, right? Because it feels like they can't appease this part of the Democrat Party that wants this crazy amount of change, and I think right now they're just trying to get those voters to just fall in line.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of like you saw it with the whole Biden ad for, Kamala and Biden were kind of pretty much in favor of the protests / riots and stuff like that. Even some of their campaign funds went to bailing people out and stuff. But then when they started seeing it in the polls, they were like, boom, $45 million ad campaign. I condemn the riots and the violence and all that stuff. And so it's like he's kind of like torn between the moderates and then just the far left radicals. And so,
you mean the people that handle Joe Biden, right?
yeah, exactly. And then, but that's the thing. So kind of like going more on Ralph's point, like for the people who kind of felt like I feel betrayed by the Democratic Party, I feel like they're not really standing for my beliefs, I encourage them not to just flip red automatically. I encourage them to look at the other options, such as the third party candidate, and see where they fall in terms of policy, in terms of political views and all that stuff, and really understand who they're voting for as a candidate, and not just based on party. And like Ralph said, not just give up or not even give a third party a chance just because you'd feel like it's a wasted vote.
Especially if you're incoming college student. Like I can't stress this enough. Don't let these professors, even like the people that work there, don't let them change your viewpoint. Yeah. Like if you have beliefs, do not be afraid to
voice them.
To voice them, because at the end of the day, you're just following everyone else, and that's not what America's about,
Be an individual.
Absolutely.
Look up your own your own research. Do your own research, look up your own facts.
I think the best way to go about it is examining who you are as a person, and like how do you feel about certain things. Like it's almost like you can't even talk about illegal immigration. You can't even talk about abortion because it's such a touchy subject that you don't even get to have a chance at the table to discuss the things that do matter, right? Or the things that are controversial. Like in the end, everybody is being silenced, or they're bringing up crazy issues that shouldn't be prevalent in this society because they want to just sweep it under the rug. They want the main issues to get swept under the rug. And with universities not allowing, freedom of speech, basically, which is its original intent, right? Yeah. It's for everybody to come together, exchange ideas. And nowadays it's like, okay, we can't have freedom of speech because then it leads to rioting, especially it goes towards the right side or anybody else who isn't this leftist agenda.
And you've seen it, they ban conservative speakers on college grounds because they're, they feel that
their version of truth is not correct, right? It's not morally correct.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, you can't be open-minded in an echo chamber, right? Where it's just all you and all the people who think like you just reaffirming that you're correct and you're right. And then when you're met with a little bit of controversy with someone just saying, no, I don't agree with that. And then and then you have to go to your safe space to calm down. And you know what I mean? It's today's society, millennials, they're, I feel like the majority of them are just soft people who can't handle any type of criticism. And that's the thing that comes from not being critical of yourself, right? Like if you as an individual, you should be critical about the things that you represent you know, that you are in favor or against. Like you should really be able to criticize, like, you know, like I said, I'm pro Trump, but I will criticize the man if he does things that I don't agree with. I'm willing to do that.
You should be able to do that for any candidate.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Where that's why when I see people who are riding with Biden, you know,
with Biden.
Yeah, and I see
you mean corn pop?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I've seen people, like, these same people were very vocal about the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, right? Well, you know, the Supreme Court judge, and you know, they were like, oh, you know, believe all women, you know, this and that, you know, he's a monster, and there was a big thing. And then these people, these same people, I see them in favor of Biden, you know, completely disregarding the fact that he's had a lot of sexual misconduct and
you mean
stuff.
like Kamala Harris, how she was like a big like anti-Kavanaugh, like, oh my god, he's a rapist, I can't believe.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, like, people on my Facebook feed, like, just people people who were just like, who were just going crazy about that. And then they're like, I see them now like, oh, you know, vote for Biden and all that stuff. And it's like, that's clearly just a I hate Trump vote, you know?
I think people are voting for Biden even though they know he has all these sexual
these issues
because of the state of America and how it is right now. But personally, I don't believe that's Trump's fault. I think that is our own fault.
Not. Yeah.
You know? And I think I think them seeing him win the presidential bid, you know, I think that they're worried that it's going to continue. I think that's their biggest concern.
Yeah.
I see. They have reason, and they have reason to believe that, you know. But I truly don't think it's going to stop. You know, even if Biden.
Well, there's a theory that it might even get worse because, you know, Biden, he's not the law and order candidate. He will
let people run around. He will
submit to these people. You know what I mean?
For votes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was willing to suppress the fact that riots were even happening until he saw it in the polls. So it's like, in the event of him being elected president, I think it could just get worse because they would just, you know, it's easier to overthrow a feeble old man than it is, you know, Trump, who's here trying to actively help these states with, you know, again, federal aid. He's offered many times to send in the National Guard. He deputized you know, state police to be able to make arrests at these riots and stuff like that. So he's trying. It's not for lack of trying. It's just that when governors and mayors, again, of mostly Democratic cities that you see these riots in, they don't want to let the president help. They're okay with watching the cities burn.
Yeah, so they could blame it on him,
just so that they can point the fingers and say, "Why aren't you doing anything?" And short of enacting the Insurrection Act, which would make Trump look tyrannical, he can't really get involved.
Yeah, that is a crazy realization because it's almost like you're setting the fire, right? And you're like the head of the fire department, right?
Well, it's like that meme where it's like an image of a dude riding a bike and then he puts a stick through the front tire and he falls over and he's like, fucking Trump, you know? It's like, exactly. It's like you did that. You allowed these things. I mean, even that mayor, that Ted Wheeler guy, who was even part of the protests, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he was in favor of it, and then they tried to torch his condo, and then all he did was move. Like that, that'll fix the problem. And again, same thing. He blamed Trump for it. You know,
it almost seems like the election of Donald Trump was just a side effect of what society was becoming. Like they just wanted to be able to call whatever Republican got the nomination a racist, and Trump was the only one that was able to fight back and say, no, I'm not a fucking racist, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. This is what I stand for. And the people who are Republican and definitely love their country, they have that same sentiment where they do not want to be silenced by this abhorrent majority of people that
it's like mob rule.
The mob rule, yeah, they don't want to bow down to that. So it was like, who's gonna fight for us in the sense that we don't want to be left behind? Because Democrats were not catering to the right people. They were not doing anything for the right votes. And Donald Trump, somehow a billionaire, ended up getting the working class to
I mean, and that goes back to what you were saying about the rallies. He seems, despite him being a billionaire, a rich guy, New York mogul, he seems highly more relatable than any of the other candidates.
Yeah,
he seems
he makes mistakes. He's more human.
Yeah, and he seems like he's just talking to the average American. Which I can respect that characteristic of Trump, and that's why like you saw a lot of people just they missed loving America, whereas Trump was the candidate of making okay to love America. And that's where I feel he had a big impact with the average person who was tired of like feeling guilty all the time, how we're just the worst and we're all racist. That's to me, I feel like how he managed to win people over is he was just like, I love America. America first. We should all be proud to be American.
Yes, fuck yes, you should be.
So, again.
But with Democrats, it feels like we should be ashamed of being so great.
It's like, give yourself lashes and just like, I'm sorry we were racist. I'm sorry I'm sorry we had slavery and all this stuff. And we should all feel bad about ourselves and we're the worst. And it's like, I don't want to see that. I don't think that's the right mentality to have, especially if you're going to be a superpower. So I don't know, but yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the day, vote for the candidate that best represents you and what you feel is best for your country. This is everybody's country. We should all feel like that. We need to do what's best for it. And if you think that's Joe Jorgensen, if you think that's Trump, if you think that's Biden, vote for that person. But in my opinion, I don't see Biden really, being capable health-wise, right? Like, despite his policies, which I may not agree with or whatever, health-wise, I don't see Biden as an actual candidate. I think he's an old man who's going through the, stages of dementia. I feel like he messes his words up a lot. I feel like he's in a... Well,
that's the point of having a younger vice president, which is insane, which is like, I mean, why even have a president that's in that state of health mentally wise? If it's just gonna be like, okay, so then why don't you just make Harris the big ticket?
Well, because nobody liked Harris.
Then what's the point?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, okay, this is me talking my opinion. Full disclaimer: this is my opinion. Don't take any of this as fact. I believe Biden is a Trojan horse for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris dropped out of the debates, early because she didn't have enough support, and nobody wanted Bernie, so he got cucked the same way he got in 2016. You know what I mean? They didn't want the crazy socialist to be the head of the platform, so they just undermined him. And then they pushed a familiar face that everyone was familiar with from the Obama years. They used the Obama nostalgia to push this establishment Democrat to the forefront. And then at that point, it was over for the rest of the candidates. Everybody just dropped like flies. And then at that point, they decided, well, who's young and willing to cooperate, who's not crazy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they just thought of Kamala. Because, I mean, if you think about it, Tulsi Gabbard, I don't think she would have put up with bullshit, right? Like, I don't think she would have been easily swayed because she always seemed like to, and she's the one who actually grilled Kamala,
Yeah. So she's actually like one of the, up until the impeachment where she chose to not take a vote.
Yeah.
That was a bullshit.
Exactly.
But I thought she was a more reasonable person.
Exactly. Of course.
And that's what you need. But somehow, because of her willingness to be a rational Democrat and not cater to the crazy people, she was shunned. She was like, "Oh, Hillary won." Like, "Oh, you're a Russian spy."
Yeah, well, she was a Russian asset. Yeah, blah, Russian blah, blah,
asset.
Blah. Yeah,
which like, dude, she fought for her country just like us.
Yeah, so it was a shame to see that, but that's how I feel. We ended up with the Kamala Harris ticket. I mean, with the Biden Kamala Harris ticket.
Interesting ticket.
So that's
interesting theory.
That's how I feel. Looking at it from what I've seen, that's my best guess as how we ended up with that, and nobody liked it. I don't think anyone.
They're still going for it, man. They're still going with their charade.
I don't think anyone's happy about it. But like I said, it baffles me that there was people who are like riding with Biden, you know, vote blue no matter who. Wait, what's this slogan? Build back better. It's just like make America great.
Yeah.
But it's like great value brand of, of MAGA, right?
The twist and shouts, right?
Yeah, it's
Oreos.
like the Walmart brand of MAGA, right? And so yeah,
I know the president's big on infrastructure, but it hasn't been able to bend through because we keep bringing up all these old crazy enemies like racism and police brutality. Like we're not able to get through the real issues.
And that's a last ditch effort to just undermine the president. You know, they can't argue with him on policy because a lot of the Democrats are just, you know, pushing these radical ideas, so they can't really bring.
I saw that in the debates, right, where they would just.
Well, they all copied Bernie.
Yeah,
they were all like, "Oh, well, he's giving free. I'm giving free healthcare and free school." Yeah, like everyone just kind of said the same thing.
Yeah,
and then like you even saw it in one instance in particular. Someone asked like, "Oh, would you be willing to give free healthcare to illegal immigrants? Raise your hand." And then like Bernie and someone else raised their hand, and then slowly one by one, everyone raised their hand. It's like the whole board had their hands raised.
Yeah.
So like no one, everyone was afraid.
No one's original except Bernie, and
right, and Bernie,
and he's the crazy one.
Exactly. So it's like that's to me, that's how I felt kind of bad for like the moderate Democrat who just wants to be a Democrat, but then you see the candidates, they're not really representing anything that a moderate Democrat would even really stand for at this point. You know, and again, it goes back to
they've lost their way, man. They've lost their way.
I feel so. I feel like they catered to the Twitter crowd. You know what I mean? Like the what you see on Twitter, all these, you know, which
all the hashtags.
It isn't really what Americans are thinking, but it's just so loud. It's just like you said, it's a small percentage that's just so loud and vocal on the internet, and their presence on the internet. It's swaying the ideas, and they feel like, you know, if they stand against, or if they even suggest something that doesn't go with that kind of mentality, that they'll be canceled, right? There's a cancel culture.
Cancel culture.
Like, let's say if you're pro-choice, right? You don't trust the Republicans, any candidate, to be in that ballpark of trying to make those types of decisions. So, like you had said, you have to make a choice between trusting the Republican Party, who is against that particular issue, which is a reasonable issue. If you as a Democrat can identify with that being your defining issue, you feel like you have to make a choice between somebody who you don't trust and somebody who you know is gonna be willing to protect your right. But unfortunately, it also comes with all this crazy stuff that's happening with choosing for open borders or choosing for socialism.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are not in favor of socialism. Nobody with a reasonable mind and a steady job and a decent paycheck is in favor of socialism. And
for the most part.
For the most part.
Like in regards to that, like socialism and stuff, like I keep hearing like everyone should have.
Everyone should have, yes. That's the ticket.
A big thing, yeah. But like things like everyone should have the same pay. Everyone should be able to afford like the healthcare, you know. And things
Nobody
like that.
disagrees with that, man.
Yeah, nobody disagrees with that.
Everyone wants it. It's just if it's a
How to get
feasible
there.
reality.
Yeah.
It in most cases it's not.
Yeah, it's just it's a slippery slope, man, and sadly it's we're stuck in the middle of it.
Yeah, but
yeah.
The best choice is always capitalism with social programs that enables people to get back out there and be part of this. But what you see is just kind of like people just giving up and just depending on the government to just help them out.
Yeah, which if you see that even with, like you said, capitalism with kind of social programs, you see that now where like people depend on welfare as a way of life, you know? That's what happens with socialism. It kills the incentive to
want to be better.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're going to go 10 years to be a doctor and then you're going to be making the same pay as the average individual.
So what's the point of becoming a doctor?
A lot of people, yeah, exactly. It's like it kills the incentive, so it becomes more of a taxing thing just to do it. It's like, sure, your school might be free, but at that point you've already dedicated your life to this, and you know, again, you can't do any better. You hit that ceiling and that's it. The only, you know what I mean?
The only people who will become doctors are the people who genuinely care, right?
Right. Which, I mean,
It's admirable.
That's admirable, you know, to an extent. But it's like I said, America's, in my opinion, the greatest country in the world, because here you have the ability to make your own money by whatever means you can and enjoy that freedom, right? Like you can do what you want with your money. And if you want, and if you make it big and you become rich, you can then put money into whatever you really care about, you know? Like you can then donate to charities, and then you can have that as a tax break, right? Like you don't have to pay in taxes if you move that money around and you donate to the causes that matter to you as an individual.
Yeah, like even if you're giving because of the wrong reasons, right? You're still giving. You're still giving.
Yeah, I mean, the money goes around, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you have the freedom to choose at this point.
Yes, it's not just taken away from you.
Right. Whereas in a socialist, a country, like all the money is taken to you, and then the government decides where to put it.
That's where I don't trust government at all, man. Because there's people who are not. That's the thing with people on the left. They think that everybody is a good person, and the right people will manage it correctly. It's like, no, there's corruption in all places.
Human greed, man.
Human greed.
I mean,
it sounds. That's what sounds so appealing, right? It's those people who want to generally believe that their people is the right people.
Our founding fathers established these checks and balances.
We're going way back, huh?
Yeah, exactly. They established the system of checks and balances to keep people from having absolute power.
Absolutely, man.
And I don't see the point in throwing all of the progress we've made just to go back to something like that. You know what I mean? To a system that we've known not to work.
What a boring place we'd live in. No, honestly.
Yeah, for real.
We'd have practically no need for like the internet or. Well, we would have no desire to have things like the internet or expand.
I think our education would be a lot less.
Innovation would not happen. I mean, think about it. We're like one of the biggest hubs for innovation in the entire world. Elon Musk with SpaceX, Tesla, and all this stuff. Like, we're the ones pushing out like the craziest types of human inventions that can take our race further. And so again, it's an amazing place to live. It's an amazing world to live in, and it's just sad that people want to see that all thrown away just so that other people don't have more than them. That's a very selfish way to do it, because it really like
that's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to. If you're just working a minimum wage job and you see someone with a nice car, you just want everyone to be the same because
everybody should have a charger, right, bro?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. And I'll tell you this, if America does become a socialist country,
rich people are gonna leave.
Well, yes, that, but more towards what I was trying to say. If America becomes a socialist country, we will fix our illegal immigration problem.
How come?
People won't want to come over anymore. I'll tell you that. People will stop coming.
You need a wall to keep people in, huh?
Yeah, I mean, people will not want
to come here for opportunity, man.
Exactly.
And
capitalism breeds opportunity.
When people
that's a good fucking point. I didn't think of that before, man.
We're the land of opportunity, man. It's what it is.
Fuck.
It really saddens me to think that too, because like if we do become a socialist country, like. My family came over for me to be able to
to have a good life, a better life than them.
And so
you know what I know. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go for it. You know what I noticed is that the way the military is run, it's kind of like a social program, right? Yep. Because we sign up for an X number of years, and we're giving the same pay, or you have incentives to stay longer, but to get a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Equal housing, or you're giving this money to get a house of your own. But I think the fact that we as Americans and patriotic Americans sign up to do that so that regular people don't have to, it's amazing. Like it's the beautiful part. And don't get me wrong, I thought about it like, well, it works so well in the military, but then I realized like, wait, this is actually a choice.
Exactly.
This is actually us choosing to go
Free
into
will.
Yeah, and if you want free college, the military is there, man. Like look at me and Ralph. We're going to college through our GI Bill, which is
Spent
great.
a dime.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great thing, man. And you're absolutely right. It's the whole, it's the point of being able to choose, right? And that's the biggest thing. In America, you can make money and keep it. You can choose to do things. You know, you can choose to serve your country. You can choose not to. You can do whatever you want here. You have the choice, and socialism would destroy that choice. Communism destroy that choice. You know, all this stuff. We gotta forget make America great again. Just keep America free. How about that, right?
Yeah.
Like let's just keep it free for a change, and try not to
And
propose.
fair.
Yeah, and try not to propose these wacky ideas that would really just kind of drag our country to the dirt. Like you hear all these immigrants that come from Venezuela and
Those socialist countries.
yeah, socialist countries, communist countries, and they come over here seeking freedom. They get here and they become the most passionate Americans that you could ever see. Like these immigrants that make it over here legally and make something of themselves, and they live the American dream. They love America more than people who were born here and
'Cause they don't
raised
take it
here
for
and
granted.
entitled to everything, and they feel like they don't have to work a day in their lives and they should just be given everything, and they should just live like they see the people on social media who have all these cars and
That's a big case of FOMO, right? The fear of missing out.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what's getting everybody. Like you keep seeing all these people, these rich celebrities with a lot of money, and
it goes back to what you're saying. They sell the dream.
They sell the dream. Yeah, the Ty Lopez,
Yeah.
freaking MLM.
And I'll be damned if my grandparents, risk their entire lives coming to this country. My grandpa had 9 children. He came over here.
Oh,
with
that's a lot of kids.
Yeah, my grandparents had
What's
9
that
children.
meme like? Oh, we were thinking about sex back then, and now you see like the 10 kids.
Yeah.
And so to know that my grandparents put so much on the line to
Yeah.
give my family a better life, and then like for people to just ask for stuff and
Yeah.
get it really angers me,
Yeah,
because
absolutely,
my
it should.
grandparents did not work so hard to be able to be put down so easily.
Yeah.
And it that's something that people should keep in mind.
Yeah.
That the people before us, they brought us here for a better life, and it's up to us to make it a better life. It shouldn't be handed to us.
Right. We should all work for it.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
social programs, when like our grandparents were here, were different. You would have to work, on government, like for government programs in order to receive these social benefits, right? It was different. There was incentive to work so that you can receive government aid. And nowadays it's just, have a baby, go to a doctor.
The anchor baby.
Well, no, I mean, even that, yes, but also like just in general, like have a baby, and then when that kid starts going to school, claim that this kid has a learning disability, and then you get a more of an increase to the government check. Oh, father's not in the picture, so do your taxes as separate. So it's tearing up the nuclear family, right? No,
Yeah.
you don't have a dad in the picture anymore, and the mom gets housing, and then all of a sudden another kid, and then child support or whatever. Like they're more incentivized to screw and abuse the system than they are to use it to get back on their feet and then have pride in work and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
And that's what
But I mean, that's how they keep their voter base, right?
well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of how Democrats have been using minorities and people
And social programs
and social
to their
programs.
advantage.
Exactly. To do that, yeah, to stay in power. And then you see it all the time. They treat people like they treat their voter base like booty calls. They only come around every 4 years and ask for them to vote again, but they don't ever do anything in the time that they're in power.
Joe Biden texting you up?
Hey, what you doing?
Joe Biden's been in office for what, 30
It's
47 years.
Yeah.
47 years. Where were all these problems before, and why weren't these problems fixed before?
Exactly.
And I think they're just playing a game of, oh, he did this, he did that. At this
Right,
point,
exactly.
you know?
It's like I said, they attack Trump's character because they can't argue on policy
Yeah.
because their voter base is divided.
That's true, man. We are not talking about policy at all at this
Nope.
point. And like the things that I really care about is lowering the price of healthcare, lowering the price of education. For people like us who have the GI Bill, like we see the bill, right? We don't pay any, but we see how it's like $3 or $4 grand, which 6-7 years ago it was like a grand or two less.
Yeah.
So I think that we on purpose are being persuaded to care about all these crazy issues so that we don't focus, so that like
Yeah.
things like big pharma
Mm-hmm.
and how like it's easy for these institutions of education to just put a imaginary number and then get the financial aid money to go straight to them. Like they don't even care about their students anymore.
Absolutely.
They don't even care like how like their willingness to learn gets them a degree. The purpose of getting a degree anymore, it's practically gone to shit because we have gotten to that point where it's just a piece of paper. Like we don't even want to learn. We just want to get through the fucking class. And I want to be able to be in an environment where I actually want to learn the things that I'm interested, that I'm not just a number, that I'm not just a person that you can just take the money from, you know, like
Yeah.
my education matters to me and it should matter to them. I don't want to be just a freaking
number in the system.
A person that you can just use to get your money from the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and there's a lot of
Does that make sense to you, right?
Yeah,
You see it too,
absolutely
right?
does, yeah.
Yeah, and
And
just-
you know, you bring up UTRGV in college, you know, and you know when I don't know if you.
Well,
heard,
I didn't say UTRGV.
Well, just
but
just college in general.
yeah, college, but yeah, UTRGV, we see it.
Yeah.
I'm calling you out, guys.
And like you see, for example, the scholarship opportunity they brought up, like people making under 75K or get free tuition, and you know everyone was all for it. You know, everyone
Yeah.
that went to UTRGV was all for it. But then the next year, tuition rose. You know, and they were like,
wow.
they're like, oh, what's this? Why did it go up?
It wasn't really free, huh?
It's like, you know, and
You didn't read the terms and conditions.
Yeah, it's just because it sounds so good, right? And
Yeah.
you think, oh, I make less than 75. Let me make less this year, so I can qualify for that, right? it starts to put limits on people.
Yeah, and I agree, man. I think it's a good opportunity, but people take advantage, and
The wrong people take
the wrong
advantage.
people take advantage, and it's very sad that money from my pockets is going to someone who,
From your service too.
yeah, and going to someone who doesn't really care about the degree, you know, that
Yeah.
is only going to school because it's free, you know. If like I'm all for college, but if college not for you, like don't make it a big deal, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And it's just like I said, it's a shame that nowadays it's just more highlighted that the majority of politicians don't care about the American people, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it
It always seems to be like like they're firing up their base based on fear mongering, basically.
yeah, fear mongering.
Like they're coming after our guns, guys. Like that is a big one, right? But it's like, okay, yeah, they're not gonna do that. They're so I don't want to be talking about guns, basically, like whether or not they're coming for our guns, because I don't agree that they should. I want to be talking about things that matter for the general public. But the minute that people in the Democratic side or the far left, they start going after trying to take our guns, it's like a distracting issue, because it's like you're not going to do that. It's like we shouldn't even be talking about that. We should be talking about how to get healthcare for everybody, because in other countries, healthcare is extremely cheap. We should not be paying 13 grand, 14 grand just for an ER visit, and we should not be. We're in the system where the money comes from basically the government, right? Like the government helps you kind of get there.
Yeah,
but
then,
that's where the evil, greedy people raise up their prices.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean that's entirely true, right? So like if the government's footing the bill or whatever, it's easy for a hospital just be like, oh well, turns out that your common cold is going to cost you 14 grand to fix or whatever, and then obviously that creates a big disparity between like just what they should be able to charge versus what they do actually charge, and then sticking you with this big inflated number.
Yeah.
So the way you fix that is you privatize healthcare, right? So you
put limits and guidelines.
Those limits and guidelines will come on their own. So like let's say
that's right.
Let's say you Henry and Ralph are both doctors and you have your own clinics privately owned, right? Mm-hmm. If you're
competition, you're talking about competition.
Exactly, competition. If you charge $80 for a checkup and Ralph charges $60, more people are going to go towards Ralph, just for a checkup, and then that will keep you in balance. You will have to drop your prices down to $60 to compete with Ralph. So it's like that's how you kind of fix that issue. You privatize it and you make it incentive based, just like every other business on the platform. Competition will keep you in check. You can't go over and under too much. Of course, maybe government regulation here and there, depending for like certain drugs and stuff.
Right,
like that.
you gotta evolve a little bit, but not control it.
Right, but
just make it fair.
Yeah, but in this scenario, it makes it so that you can't get too greedy and just create an imaginary number, inflate it to these ridiculous levels, and then force people to pay this bill or screw their credit, right? Like that's kind of how in my opinion, that's how you kind of resolve that issue. But again, talking about it is how you make progress. And a lot of people, you're right, are not talking about issues that the majority of Americans want to see done, right? We're focused on racism that, we're not 50 years ago, 60 years ago, it was way, it was actually an issue. Nowadays, you have to try and you have to make things about race in order to create this illusion of racism, when in reality, the majority of Americans, if they talk to their neighbors, they realize they're just normal people, regardless of whatever color or creed they may be. No, normal Americans, I feel like, don't really have that as an issue. I will say
there is little pockets.
There is actual racism here and there, and if there's a case about it, we should condemn it. But to say that it's rampant and that it's infecting, our society,
our institutional racism,
and that you can't get by because of the color of your skin, like, I don't think we're living in that world anymore. I think we've made progress, a lot of progress, and it kind of spits in the face of people who pushed so hard during the civil rights era to live in the world that we're in today. It's kind of like a disrespect on their name when we're like, oh, look at all this racism that's still around. It's like, no, man, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
And we've made a lot of progress as a country. We're not perfect, but I don't believe this whole narrative that everyone wants to target you and put you down just because of the color of your skin.
And, I will say, I truly believe the age of racism is dying.
Yeah,
like we already acknowledged that racism is bad.
Yeah,
that we shouldn't segregate each other. That's already done and over with. There's some people that hang on to that ideology though.
Yeah.
And it's fair to say that it still exists. However, it shouldn't be
it's not prominent. It's not the biggest thing on our plate right now.
Yeah. I think the main people keeping it alive.
We got bigger fish to fry, guys.
Yeah. I think the main people keeping racism alive are the people alive during those times,
or the ones who need that issue alive, so
to fight it.
Yeah,
it's like I said.
Like you say, like if Joe Biden had the answers to fucking fix racism, he would have fucking done it a long time ago.
Yeah,
in his 48 years of service, he would have fucking just cleared racism, right?
Instead, he's offering the solution now. He's like, oh, vote for me, and I'll solve all these problems, but he doesn't ever tell you how he's going to do it. He just says he's going to.
They make good headlines, man.
Yeah. and that's the thing. And I believe, like I said, and I've said this multiple times, that, millennials today are rebels without a cause. They needed to feel like they were making change, part of something. They were fighting some type of horrible oppression that just didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So they brought racism back from the dead just to fight it again. And it's like
Just to leave out the important issues that we need.
right.
Like we need to be able to reform illegal immigration.
And it's like I said,
immigration in general. We need to reform
right.
it.
Well, we need to talk about it, right? Like, you know, you see a lot of people shut you down. Like if I say, "Oh, I'm pro border security." Boom, you're a racist. Boom, you're this. Boom, you're that. We don't even have to talk about it. You know, we're not even. There's no common ground to be met if you're just blocking me just at the sight of me just saying that I want more border security. And it's like a lot of people who don't live in the border have this strong opinion and they want these open borders, and it's like, motherfucker, you don't live here. like we live here.
I've noticed that too, man.
And you know, I want some fucking border security because like not everyone's coming over with the best intentions, and and that's just a reality. Like
I think maybe to some extent it should be there should be like a committee of the southern states to actually have something enacted to protect each other. But perhaps, you know, maybe I know it's a national level, but I feel like the people who end up making choices are the ones that are not living in this.
Yeah, we're most affected by it. So, you know,
I think we should have our own vote on it.
I mean, like, what does a person in Washington have to think about it? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
Like, the only thing you got to worry about is Canadians bringing, like, Canadian bacon or something.
Exactly.
But you see, like, all these illegal immigrants and people who are like MS-13 gang members that make it all the way to these crazy pockets in New York, California.
I know, that's crazy, man.
That like make it way up there and start causing all kinds of chaos. And California is a sanctuary state.
It's a sanctuary state, yeah.
Yeah, and it's becoming insane the amount of protection that they have, more than regular people, more than they essentially have more rights than the average American,
than the average citizen of California. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then people who will flee California and move to Texas because everything's cheaper over here, then they still vote the same way that they voted over there. It's like, nah, man. Like, look, if you're gonna
don't California my Texas.
Yeah, exactly, man. Because over here, you know, we've been doing good. We have our own stuff, you know, and our economy is great. Like even just Texas's economy, and you know, as a state, you know, we're doing pretty good. And then for people to come over and then still want to vote for the same policies and stuff that made their city crap, that you gotta at some point like reflect. You know, you have to have some self-awareness. Like, boy, why did it get so bad? Instead of just realizing, oh, it's shit, I'm gonna go somewhere where it's not shit. But you know, all these people are wrong, but me. I'm obviously the correct one, you know? So anyways, but...
And I just want to thank you, Ralph, for being part of the Gray Space, because it actually, if anything, it helps me try to come up with better solutions for things that truly matter.
Yeah.
You see how, like, you know, you put things into perspective for me that I never saw before. And we can't be so emotionally... triggered by everything, because who knows what the people at the top are how much influence do they have over us, and what their research teams have so that you act a certain way.
Yeah.
Because nothing is ever planned by accident. I think if anything, sometimes they see things that are happening and then they have to react or cater to the voters, right?
Yeah.
They have to cater to the specific type.
They follow trends.
Yeah, they follow trends, and they have to like come up with ways on how to grab a hold of the frenzy and be part of it before it just leaves them behind.
Yeah.
And thank you, man.
Of course, man.
It's just a great conversation with you, and
and you've given me a lot to think about in the regards of a third party candidate, you know.
Absolutely.
So, you know,
I'm glad I was able to.
Yeah, and it's very productive, man. And you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether we change minds or not. I think as long as we open minds is the goal here.
Yeah.
And it's just gotten, for me, this is just an experience that's gotten way better at me listening to other people, regardless of what background.
You know, and at the end of the day, a person who listens to this, if it makes your viewpoint against us more, then I kind of did my job. You know,
Yeah.
I kind of I'm okay with that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hate you for that because that is your right as an American to think that way. But if I did happen to change your mind a little bit, then I as well. I'm glad I did that. You know?
Yeah.
So I just
Yeah,
hope
as
that,
long as but you definitely managed to open my mind, and that's what I want for people to have and be able to listen to each other, because the way we're acting, we're just acting like social media.
Yeah.
We're out there just like shouting out people, blocking, not really having a conversation.
Right.
And I see now how this is even more important now than ever, because I came to this realization, like, yeah, we aren't talking about the big items that every American talks about,
Right.
Yep.
because we're being shut out by the loudest people, the ones that the establishment tries to cater, that are following on these trends and these crazy narratives, that we are being forgotten, and as if we don't exist. And I want things that matter, and to be the forefront of who we are as Americans. And thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, Oscar.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime.